Good afternoon, everybody. This is the first of our Q&A sessions. Today I'm going to get through 3 questions that have come through and hopefully get to the others over future videos. If you're enjoying these videos and you want to make sure that you don't miss the future ones, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. There'll be a button just below the video when you finish watching this video. Please press the button and then you'll be assured that our videos will show up in your YouTube channel feed. Today, the 3 questions that have come through is, one is about tax returns. It's come through from quite a few people about whether they need to lodge their tax return to get the government stimulus. Second question was, what effect do I think that the Australian social distancing rules are having on small business and will have in the future? And the third one is about my opinion on how I see the economy being affected in, actually it's come through from 5 people, from 5 different countries, from Australia, America, Vietnam, New Zealand and England. The only one I won't comment on is England because I'm not close enough to that. I don't think my opinion will have much value. So I'll cover those other things. Please understand these are my opinions. I'm open for comment and criticism and discussion. It's always very healthy. So the first question is about tax returns. The question is basically, do I need to lodge my tax return to get the stimulus? The answer is yes, you do. So tax returns, if you do them yourself, prepare and lodge them yourself, the deadline for most tax returns was 31 October last year, so you're already late if you haven't lodged it by now. Most people would have. Those that use a tax agent like ourselves or an accountant, we have an extended deadline till the 15th of May for most clients, so we have until then to get them done. So if you believe that you qualify for the government stimulus measures, you will not get it if you haven't done your tax return. So please give us plenty of time. Accountants generally need a few days to a week and a couple of weeks for some of the more complex tax returns and even longer for very complex tax returns. So please give your accountant and give us time if you need us to do your tax returns. We are very willing to help anyone who's listening that needs their tax return done. Lydia and I have cleared our schedules quite a bit to make sure that we can support our clients first of all during this time where they're needing us the most. But we do have, and we have allowed for extra capacity for tax returns that might need to be done. So if you want us to help you, please contact us soon. Don't contact us on the 15th of May. We won't be able to get the work done. We need you to contact us now. So that gives us about 6 weeks to get everyone's work done and get it all lodged on time. The same goes for small businesses with BAS returns. The small business measures, most of those things will happen automatically, but only if you've got your BAS returns up to date. So as I mentioned on a previous video, our clients will be up to date. We have a very good system, but if you're in business and you're a small business and you need help with that, or if you're not sure if you're up to date, you can contact us or contact your accountant and they'll be able to help you with that. So to answer the question, yes, you do need to do your tax return and it has to be done very soon. Second question, what effect do I think the Australian social distancing rules will have on small business? That question was sent in about 3 days ago. So I think what we can see is over the last few nights, the Australian government has already announced some significant changes, and I think people are starting to realise the effect that it's going to have on their business. They've either been told to close their business or restrict their activities or modify things to continue operating. When I listen to these government announcements, and I'm not listening to much news, I'm not listening to the regular news channels, I'm really listening just to the official government announcements. I'm talking with clients, I'm talking with people on the ground. I'm not hearing much of the noise around that. So my opinions might not be the same as what Channel 9 or Channel 7 in Australia are. So when I listen to the government describe these social distancing rules, it appears to me that there are so many, in such a short period of time, they've created an enormous amount of guidelines and rules and policies on what we can do and what we can't do, and they're ever changing. It reminds me very much of when the GST first came in. It took us accountants and at least a year to fully understand what the GST was applied on and how it worked. I'm sure it took the public a lot longer. And these measures feel very much the same as all the different things that we were being required to do when the GST first came in. So I can understand there's a lot of confusion, and I can tell you the approach over here and in other countries is very different. So we'll discuss that in question 3. But what I want to talk about was the impact that these social distancing measures are having, they're getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's certainly not opening up the economy for business. It's closing the economy, and the government's got their reasons for that. The more important thing I want people to look at is the opportunity. So the opportunity here is to act early. There's no point holding on if you're a business that the government is earmarked, that they're stripping back the activities that you can do. If you can't do them and still break even or make a profit, there's no point holding on and delaying the inevitable. The more important thing is the opportunity on the other side. The opportunity on the other side, and as I've said before, we don't know when that is, we don't know what it'll look like, but we're starting to see what the other side looks like in China, and we're starting to feel what the opportunity might look like here in Vietnam. But Australia have a different approach, and I'll discuss that later. The opportunity is that instead of trying to hold on now, and even if your business has been asked to close, you need to start thinking about now, what will I be doing when I open up on the other side? Now, if you're the last to react and you're the last to close your business, or you're last to restrict, or you're the last to plan for your reopening, or the last to plan for the future, you miss that opportunity. And what I mean by that opportunity is that one day in the future, the economies are going to grow again. Things are going to go back to a new normal. No, it won't be similar to the old normal, as I'm calling it, and things will go back to economic times where people go out and they buy things and they sell things and sell services. And if you're ready for that, then that's the opportunity. And I'll give you a quick analogy, and it can relate to any industry. If you're a cafe and you're closed down now, because most cafes are being asked to close down, maybe you're doing some home deliveries, whatever. If on the other side, if you've got 5 cafes in your community or in your block of the city, and if you're the first one to open up on the other side, you're going to be the one that's going to be supplying the food and the snacks and the coffees and the bagels and banh mi's and so forth to your customers. If you're able to get to that position and take that opportunity when the economy starts to grow again, your competition is going to be less, and you're going to be the one serving all of that stuff to all the people that need it first. And therefore, you might even be in a position where you're seeing customers come into your shop for the first time. They might have walked past your shop in the past. But if you're prepared, and if you've got a plan to reopen on the other side, and you're one of the first, and you've made tough decisions now, and you're making hard decisions to get you into that position, that's the opportunity. And that analogy can be related to almost every industry. When the economy starts to grow again, what are you going to be doing? And how's your business going to look? And if you can start to work on that plan now, and then you'll be in a position where you can where you can tap into that opportunity and hopefully prosper, and hopefully other cafes will open up, and hopefully there'll be a lot, and we'll be back to where we were in the past. If anyone wants to discuss their own personal business and how I think it's going to affect their business in their industry, please let me know as well. As I said, I've got a lot of analogies for different industries. The third question is, what's the effect going to be on the economy in Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, and America? It's a really interesting question for all those countries, for all those questions that come through and highlight those countries, because each of those countries has a different approach. Just what I've commented on about the cafe analogy, the same goes for the countries. If you're the last to react, if Australia's the last to react, or America's the last to react, then they're probably going to be the last to participate in the other side when the economies and activity starts to pick up again. If you've been one of the first to react, like China and now Vietnam, then when the economies start to pick up again, it's those countries that are going to prosper. So when I look at, say, New Zealand, probably New Zealand and Australia and America, it's a bit unfair to put them in the same basket, so I'm going to comment on each individually. Australia first. Australia has been slow to react. Australia's strategy is to flatten the curve. So I understand that to mean stretch it out as long as possible. And to me, that doesn't make sense. I know some people will disagree with me, but why stretch this out as long as possible? And I think that's why Scott Morrison's the only leader in the world that's talking about 6 months. Shut down tourism for 6 months, shut down everything for 6 months. Because they're trying to flatten the curve so that our health resources can cope. I understand those arguments. We went through those here months ago. But that's Australia's approach. So therefore, Australia won't be participating in a large scale in the world economy until they flatten the curve and be in a position where they're comfortable to reopen their economy again. America, their leader is saying that he's going to reopen the economy in weeks, but I don't believe him. Scott Morrison is saying he's going to flatten the curve and stretch it out. I do believe him. I believe that's what he's going to do. So Australia's going to have this problem for a long time. Donald Trump is saying that he's going to open the economy in 2 weeks, in a few weeks. It's impossible. I still think they're in denial. They've now got the second largest rate of infections in the world. Who's going to want to deal with them? Who's going to want to send workers to America, supply and bring in and order things from America to be imported into your own country when they've got this virus issue and it's rampant across their whole country? And that appears to be what's happening at the moment. However, the president is just not seeing it. I don't want to comment too much more on America. New Zealand, they've got a bit more of a hardline approach. They're a smaller country. They've acted fairly quickly, perhaps not as quickly as China and Vietnam. However, they will probably be in a good position to lead Australia out of this issue, and that seems to always be the way with New Zealand. We tend to follow what New Zealand's leader does quite a lot, and she's a very popular leader, and she has made some of the tough decisions a bit earlier than Australia, and we followed suit. So I think New Zealand is going to be in a much better position than Australia, and you know, timing is the essence. If you can come out of this a month or 2 months or 3 months before any other country, what's going to happen is that those countries that are still going through this issue, they're going to need supplies. They're going to need medical supplies. They're going to need special professions to come and help them out. We're already seeing it around the world now, where China is now almost on top of their issue, and they're starting to export some of their health services and medical equipment and so forth. That's going to be the same for everything else that we produce around the world. So when Australia's shut down their economy and we need something made that previously we made in Australia, we're going to have to get it off New Zealand or Vietnam or China or somewhere else in the world, because we're simply not making it, supplying it and delivering it in Australia anymore, because our economy is still shut down. So if a country can come out a couple of months out the other end in front of other countries, they're going to be much, much better positioned to prosper in the future, because they're going to have new industries that they're going to have to help supply the rest of the world with that they didn't have before. Old industries will open up, and the country will be in a much stronger position. Vietnam, I want to comment on Vietnam. Vietnam is by no means over this issue. I know I've given a lot of comparisons about Australia and Vietnam, and I've probably lent towards, reasonably strongly actually, towards the way that Vietnam has handled this as opposed to Australia. But I must stress that we are nowhere near over this issue, because Vietnam is one of those countries that's brought up on family values, and Vietnam puts people first, and everything else comes second, and that's the beauty of this country. And the issue we've got right now is that the Vietnamese government has, over the last week, encouraged all Vietnamese citizens to come home if they want to. So we've received the number 17,000 Vietnamese 3 days ago come back from infected countries, or from countries around the world, to come back to home, and 15,000 a day before. So over the last probably 7 to 10 days, we've received 100 and something thousand Vietnamese come home. They're all now in quarantine, either in the government facilities or at home. That's putting pressure on our facilities. So the government here just made the announcement this morning, I think it was, that all international air carriers are to cease operations for international flights. So that means that no more Vietnamese can come home, because we are at capacity. So we've got now many tens of thousands of people in quarantine, most in government-built facilities or government-renovated facilities, the others at home. But the good thing is they're all quarantined, and quarantining over here means a lot different to what it does in Australia. So we know where they are, they're in a facility, and we're hoping that in weeks to come, those people will be released from the quarantine facilities, and then we can start to think about whether we are over this issue or not. So 280 people got released from, or 280 foreigners, I should say, got released from quarantine today. So people are starting to be released out the other side. We hope that we end up with some of those that are infected with the virus that have tested once, twice and 3 times for the virus negative, that they'll start to get released back into the community as well. So with the Vietnamese government, they had a completely different approach. They went in hard. China was a neighbour. They made the tough decisions right up front, and until those decisions can be made in other places like America and Australia, they are going to be a long way behind. I really worry about Australia's economy and stretching it out, and this notion of flattening the curve, I don't think it makes any sense at all. America, let's see what happens with them. Look, I understand that my comments might not be, everyone might not agree with what I'm saying here, but if you've got comments, please send them through. I'm very happy to listen. That's how I learn. And tomorrow I'll try and do another session if I get time. If not, it'll be the day after to answer your questions. So please, if you're sending questions and I haven't answered them, I apologise. I will get to them. That's about it for tonight. So thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.